Welcome back. This is session 2 of your Copilot for Coaches training, and I'm really glad you're here. In session 1, you got your foundation, you explored Copilot chat, you learned the 4-part prompt formula, and you wrote your first real prompts. Today, we're going deeper. This session is called Copilot in Outlook and Word. And what that means is we're moving from the standalone chat tool into the apps you already open every single day to run your coaching practice. Your inbox, your Word documents, the places where client emails live, proposals get written, welcome letters are drafted, and session notes get turned into something you can actually send. By the end of this session, you'll know how to use Copilot to draft and polish client emails, summarize long email threads, write coaching proposals, and welcome letters from scratch, analyze client submitted documents, and rewrite content for different audiences and tones. These are not theoretical skills. These are things you could genuinely use this week with real clients. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, I want to be completely honest with you about something because I think it's more respectful to be upfront than to gloss over it. The Copilot features in this session, the ones that live inside Outlook and Word, require what Microsoft calls the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. This is an add-on to a standard Microsoft 365 subscription, and it does cost extra. It's not included automatically just because you have an M365 account. What this means in practice, if you open Outlook right now and you don't see a Copilot button anywhere, that's probably why. And that's completely fine. It doesn't mean anything is broken, and it doesn't mean you can't benefit from this session. Here's why this session is still valuable, even if you don't have the license yet. First of all, everything you learn today will apply the moment you do have access. You'll know exactly where to look and exactly what to do. There's zero learning curve. Second, for some of the prompts I'll show you today, you can use Copilot Chat as a workaround. Copy your email text or document section, paste it into chat, and ask Copilot the same question. It's not as seamless, but it works. The real upgrade with the in-app license is that Copilot can read your actual emails and documents directly. No copying and pasting needed. That's what we'll be building toward. For now, let's learn how it works so you're ready when the time comes. Let's start with Outlook. And specifically, let's talk about where to find the Copilot button. This sounds simple, but it's the thing that trips people up most often. If you can't find the button, you can't use the feature. So let's make this crystal clear. In Outlook, Copilot appears in 3 different places. The first place is the ribbon at the top of the window. When you're in your inbox, look across the top tabs: Home, Send/Receive, Folder View. The Copilot button appears on the right side of that ribbon, usually with a little sparkle icon. Click it, and a Copilot panel opens on the right side of your screen. The second place is inside the Compose window. When you click New Email or hit Reply on a message, look in the toolbar at the bottom of the message body area, the little row of formatting icons. And the Copilot icon is usually at the end of that row. Click it, and it opens the Draft with Copilot option. This is where the magic happens for writing client emails. The third place is the reading pane. When you click on an email to read it, a Copilot panel often appears automatically on the right side, offering to summarize the thread or suggest replies. You might see quick action buttons like Summarize or Draft Reply right there, but no clicking around required. As a coach, your inbox is where a lot of your client relationship happens. Let's look at what Copilot can do right there. The first skill I want you to have in Outlook is drafting client emails with Copilot. And I mean really drafting them. Not starting from a blank screen, not staring at the cursor blinking at you wondering how to say something delicate. Think about some of the emails that take the most time and energy in your coaching practice. The follow-up after a session where something really shifted. The welcome email for a new client who just signed on. The proposal follow-up where you want to feel confident, not pushy. The gentle reminder when an invoice is overdue. The message to a client who missed a session without letting you know. These aren't just emails, they're relationship moments. And they can be genuinely hard to write in a way that feels right, like the right tone, the right balance, the right level of warmth versus professionalism. This is where Copilot becomes genuinely useful. You open a new email, click the Copilot icon in the Compose toolbar, and describe the situation in plain English. Here's a real example. A client missed your session yesterday with no notice. You want to reach out, but you want it to feel understanding, not passive aggressive, and you want to suggest rescheduling without making them feel punished for forgetting. Here's the prompt. Draft a professional but warm email to a coaching client who missed our session yesterday without notice. Keep it understanding, not accusatory, and suggest rescheduling under 100 words. Copilot writes that email. You read it, maybe you change a word or two to match your voice, and you're done. What might have taken you 10 minutes of wrestling with phrasing takes 30 seconds. And the version Copilot gives you is usually more balanced than what you'd write when you're frustrated. Try it with that prompt right now if you have Outlook open. The second Outlook skill is thread summarization. And this one gets the biggest reaction from coaches every time I demonstrate it. Here's the scenario. You're managing 5 to 10 active clients at any given time. Each one has their own email thread. Some of those threads are simple, but some of them, especially around scheduling, group program inquiries, or proposals that went through several rounds of back and forth, those threads can run to 10 or 15 messages. And when you come back to them after a few days, you have to reread the whole thing just to remember where you left off and what still needs a response. Thread summarization solves that problem immediately. Here's how it works with the in-app M365 Copilot. You click on any email in a conversation thread. In the Copilot panel on the right side, you'll see a Summarize button. Click it. Copilot reads the entire thread, every message, who sent what was agreed, what's still open, and gives you a concise summary in a few seconds. You don't copy and paste anything. You don't manually highlight anything. Copilot is reading directly from your actual inbox. What it extracts is genuinely useful. The key points from each message, any decisions that were made, action items with owners, questions that haven't been answered yet, and the overall status of the conversation. For coaches managing a group program inquiry that went in 5 different directions over 2 weeks, this feature alone can save you 20 minutes. And then you can follow up like, what does this client still need from me? And Copilot tells you. The third and fourth Outlook skills go together: reply suggestions and tone adjustment. Let me start with reply suggestions. When you open a client email in Outlook with Copilot enabled, you'll often see suggested quick replies in the Copilot panel on the right. These might be simple one-line responses, and I'll check my calendar and get back to you, or happy to discuss this further, let me know a time that works for you. Sometimes those suggestions are exactly what you need. Click one, review it, send it. But the more powerful use is drafting a full reply with a specific tone. And for coaches, tone is everything. Think about the difference between an email that reads as empathetic versus one that reads as professional versus one that reads as direct. In your coaching practice, you send all three, depending on the situation, the client, and what's needed in that moment. Copilot lets you set that tone intentionally. You click Draft with Copilot, describe what you want to say, and then use the Adjust option to set the tone. You can go professional, empathetic, direct, or encouraging. You can also just describe the tone in your own prompt. Now, that's often the clearest approach. Here's a practical example for coaches. Your client sent a frustrated email about feeling stuck. You want to acknowledge what they're feeling, validate it, and redirect toward your next session with energy and hope. You tell Copilot, draft a reply to this client who is expressing frustration about their progress. Acknowledge their feelings, remind them that plateaus are part of the process, and close with an encouraging note about our upcoming session. Warm and empathetic tone, under 120 words. That's a hard email to write cold. With Copilot, it takes 30 seconds. Now let's move from Outlook into Word. And this is where things get really interesting for coaches who spend time creating documentation. Think about all the things you write as a coach: coaching proposals, client welcome letters, session agreements, program outlines, session summaries, newsletters, blog posts, coaching frameworks you want to share with clients. Most of this writing happens in Word or in a similar document, and a lot of it starts with a blank page and a blinking cursor. And that's where the time goes. Copilot in Word changes that relationship with the blank page completely. There are 3 main things you'll do with Copilot in Word this session. First, draft documents from scratch, so that blank page never has to stay blank. Second, analyze and ask questions about existing documents, like a client submitted reflection journal or a business plan. Third, rewrite and improve existing content, making it shorter, warmer, simpler, or targeted to a different audience. These three skills, used consistently, can genuinely cut the time you spend on coaching documentation in half. Let's look at each one. Before we look at what Copilot does in Word, let's make sure you know where to find it. Just like Outlook, Copilot lives in two main places inside Microsoft Word. The first is the ribbon button. That's the Copilot button in the top right area of the Word window next to the other toolbar controls. Click it and a full Copilot sidebar opens on the right side of your document. This sidebar is the best option when you want to analyze an existing document, ask questions about its content, or have a conversation with Copilot about what you're working on. The second access point is what I call the inline draft button, and this one is fantastic for writing new content. When you position your cursor on an empty line in your document, hover in the left margin next to that line. A small Copilot circle appears. It looks like a little sparkle or a small dot. Click it, and a prompt field opens right there in the document where you can type your instruction. Hit enter, and Copilot generates content directly into your document at that point. This inline approach is the quickest way to draft new sections. You're reading through your coaching proposal, you get to the section on what the client can expect, and you realize you haven't written it yet. You hover, click the inline button, type your instruction, and the section appears. That's the workflow. Okay, now let's talk about what you can actually do with this. The first word skill, and the one most coaches fall in love with immediately, is drafting from scratch. Here's the situation I want you to think about. You need to write a coaching proposal. You're sitting at your desk, the document is open, and it's blank. You know what you do, you know what you're offering, you know this client is a good fit, but somehow putting it all into a document is hard. The blank page is its own kind of obstacle. Copilot eliminates that obstacle. You click the inline draft button, type your instruction, and Copilot writes the first draft, not a perfect draft, not a final draft, a solid, structured, professional first draft that you can review, adjust, and make your own. Here's the exact prompt I want you to try. Write a one-page coaching proposal for a 3-month executive coaching engagement. Include what we'll focus on, how sessions work, what the client can expect to achieve, and investment. That instruction will produce a complete, structured one-page proposal in about 10 seconds. You'll review it and think, this isn't quite how I say it in a few places. And that's normal. You adjust those sections to match your voice, your specific approach, your specific investment amount. But the structure is there, the framework is there. You're editing, not writing from nothing. For a welcome letter, same idea. Tell Copilot, write a warm client welcome letter for someone starting a 6-month life coaching program. Include what they can expect from each session, how to prepare, how to contact me between sessions, and an encouraging opening. Done. Starting point in 30 seconds. That is the shift. You're going from creator to editor, and editor is a much faster, lower resistance place to work from. The second word skill is one I think is genuinely underappreciated, and it's especially powerful for coaches who use pre-session exercises, reflection journals, or client submissions. Here's the scenario. Before your session with a client, they submit a written reflection. Maybe it's responses to questions you sent them. Maybe it's a journal entry about their week. Maybe it's a draft of their business plan or a vision statement they've been working on. Whatever it is, it's valuable, and you want to read it carefully before the session. But reading carefully takes time, especially if you have multiple clients submitting reflections in the same week. Copilot in Word can read those documents for you, analytically, not just summarily. You open the client's document in Word, click the Copilot ribbon button to open the sidebar, and start asking questions. What are the 3 dominant themes in this document? What limiting beliefs or assumptions are showing up in what this client has written? What is this client not addressing? What are the gaps? What are 3 powerful questions I could ask in our next session based on this submission? Copilot reads the entire document and answers those questions. It gives you an analytical read in a fraction of the time it would take you to do manually. You're not replacing your own judgment. You're getting a smart first pass that sharpens your preparation. For coaches who do this consistently, asking Copilot to help them prepare for sessions based on client submissions, this feature alone can transform the depth and quality of coaching conversations. The third word skill is rewriting. And this is the one that saves the most revision time once you're comfortable with Copilot. Here's how it works. You've written something, or Copilot has drafted something for you, and it needs to be adjusted. Maybe it's too long, maybe it's too formal and needs to feel warmer. Maybe it uses language that works for a business audience, but not for your coaching clients who don't have a corporate background. Maybe you wrote a session summary in third person and you want to send it to the client in second person, speaking directly to them. You select the text, right click, and choose Rewrite with Copilot, or you open the Copilot sidebar and describe the change you want. Let me give you the most coaching specific example. You've written session notes, or you've had Copilot draft a session summary from your bullet points, but it reads like notes, not like something you'd send to a client. You want it to feel personal, encouraging, and action focused, as if you're speaking directly to them. Here's the prompt. Rewrite the following session summary in second person as if speaking directly to the client. Make it encouraging and action focused, then paste your summary. What comes back reads like a personalized message. In this session, you explored the patterns that have been holding you back from claiming your leadership role. You identified 3 specific moments where you defaulted to deferring when you actually wanted to speak up. Your challenge for this week is to notice those moments in real time and choose one situation where you step in anyway. That's a completely different communication than clinical notes, and it takes Copilot about 10 seconds to produce it. You review, maybe adjust 1 or 2 phrases to match your style, and you send it. That's the process. All right, this is the part of the session I always look forward to most. Practice time. We're going hands-on right now. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I want you to open either Outlook or Word and actually try one of the 3 prompts I'm about to show you. Not later, not after the session, right now. If you have the M365 Copilot license, go ahead and try it directly in the app. If you don't have access yet, open Copilot chat in your browser, copilot.microsoft.com, and use the prompts there. The experience is slightly different without the direct inbox access, but the prompts work just as well. Choose whichever of the 3 scenarios feels most real and relevant to your practice right now. These aren't demo prompts made up for a training session. These are things I'd want to use in a real coaching practice this week. Let's look at them. 3 prompts. Try at least one right now. Prompt number 1 is an Outlook client email, and it's the missed session scenario we talked about earlier. Draft a professional but warm email to a coaching client who missed our session yesterday without notice. Keep it understanding, not accusatory, and suggest rescheduling. Under 100 words. This is a situation most coaches face at some point. The goal is a message that doesn't punish the client for forgetting, keeps the relationship intact, and moves forward. Try it and notice how the tone Copilot produces compares to how you would have written it yourself. Prompt number 2 is a word coaching proposal. Write a 1-page coaching proposal for a 3-month executive coaching engagement. Include what we'll focus on, how sessions work, what the client can expect to achieve, and investment. Don't worry about the investment amount. Just put a placeholder and adjust it afterwards. What I want you to notice is the structure Copilot produces. Does it match how you'd naturally frame your offering? Probably close, with a few differences. That's exactly the revision conversation I want you to start having with your own work. Prompt number 3 is a word rewrite. And this one is the most powerful for coaches. Rewrite the following session summary in second person as if speaking directly to the client. Make it encouraging and action focused. Then paste your summary. If you have a recent session summary, even rough notes, paste it in and see what comes back. The shift in register from notes to direct client communication often surprises people. It's one of those moments where you think, I could actually send this. 15 minutes, try one. We'll compare notes. Before we close out, let's land the 3 things I most want you to walk away with from today. Number 1, you need the M365 Copilot license to use Copilot inside Outlook and Word. This is separate from your standard Microsoft 365 subscription and requires an add-on. If you don't see the Copilot button yet, that's why. And it's worth checking with whoever manages your Microsoft account. The functionality is genuinely worth it once your practice reaches a certain level of email and documentation volume. Number 2, in-app Copilot reads your real content. That's the fundamental difference from Copilot chat. When you're inside Outlook and you click Summarize on an email thread, Copilot is reading your actual emails, not a pasted copy. When you open a Word document and ask Copilot a question about it, then Copilot is reading the full document automatically. No copying, no pasting, no manual work. That seamlessness is what makes the in-app version so much faster in practice. Number three, Copilot gives you a first draft, not a final one. This is actually liberating once you embrace it. The goal is not to get a perfect email or a perfect proposal in one shot. The goal is to never face a completely blank page again. You get something solid, structured, and good enough to react to, and then your coaching expertise and your voice take it from there. Between now and session three, use Copilot in Outlook for one real client email this week, or use it in Word for one real coaching document. Even if it's just the missed session email prompt I showed you, try it with a real situation. Notice how long it takes. Notice how the result compares to how you'd write it. That's the data that makes this training stick. Congratulations, session two is done. You now know how to find Copilot in Outlook and in Word. You know how to draft and polish client emails without starting from a blank page. You know how to summarize email threads and get the "what does this client still need from me" answer in seconds. You know how to draft coaching proposals, welcome letters, and program outlines from scratch. You know how to analyze client submissions before a session. And you know how to rewrite content to speak directly to your client in a warm, encouraging second person voice. These are real, immediately useful skills for running a coaching practice, and they build directly on the prompt foundations you learned in session one. In session three, we move to Microsoft Teams. And for coaches who run sessions on Teams, which is many of us now, this is the one that really changes how you show up during sessions. Copilot in Teams can take meeting notes, extract action items, and generate session summaries automatically while you stay fully present in the conversation with your client. You're not splitting your attention between listening and writing, you're just coaching. Before session three, practice at least one of today's prompts with a real client situation and bring your results: what worked beautifully, what surprised you, what needed adjustment. That's where the real learning happens, and that's exactly what we'll build on together next time. I'll see you in session three. Well done today.